Well, we're standing in the State Coal Mine Rescue Station. This is a unique building built by the miners with our bricks. It was a training venue for the miners, and now we've turned it into an arts cooperative. Well, the centenary of Wonthaggi was coming up, and we thought we needed something very significant to celebrate this centenary. So we looked at an art piece, and Counihan came up. So we researched to find someone who was particularly knowledgeable in Noel Counihan's works. And so I contacted Robert Smith.
I think I got a phone call asking if I could give her the address of a dealer who would have works by Noel, which I duly did. And from then on, there would be another phone call about something related and so on, and until we became bosom friends.
The things that are wonderful about Robert Smith, his intellect, his command of the English language is unbelievably brilliant. It's beautiful to listen to him. He finds words that we've possibly heard before, but never used them in that context. He's exciting. He gives so much knowledge, so you want to sup it up, and you want to go home and you want to research because of what he's told you.
Wendy wanted to have an exhibition of Noel's works in the city here, right, you know, in the place, and so she commissioned me to come down with slides. And anyhow, I began by taking out my bunch of colour slides and trying to project them, but the projector was of a different scale. And so the lady who had brought it along said, "I brought the wrong projector. Oh, if you can wait, I'll just go and get it," and so on. And of course, this is the last thing that a public speaker wants, to be left empty-handed.
Bob just said in his usual way, "Well, never mind, you go and get the right projector. In the meantime, I'll give you a Shakespearean performance." And that's what he did. He duly entertained us for, about a quarter of an hour, 20 minutes, while the correct projector came back.
I was in good memory in those days. I can't remember what poetry I gave, but it poured out. My family at the time was very separated, and this was my first experience of my grandparents, and it excited me. I was surrounded by my family of a generation back, and I don't know how I came to have the book, but certainly from the moment I was enrolled in primary school, I can remember going to a second-hand bookshop opposite the school. I remember H.G. Wells, for example, quite fascinated me. To an extent, it was a self-education. I certainly didn't get educated by my father, because I think he didn't like children. Apparently, when I was in my early teens, I was wayward and didn't know, where I was, what I was doing, and so on. And an uncle by marriage had decided that he needed to do something to change this, and so he took me one night to the Patch Theatre. And I was enthralled. I hadn't been to a theatre before. All this was in an old commercial building. I don't mean full of bales of wool or anything like that. For Monday and Tuesday, we had classes. We learnt what being on the stage is like, and we had an appeal for they were poverty stricken, you know, but the Beebys weren't wealthy, because they needed curtains so that they could open and shut scenes. And so they appealed to everybody to bring in patches of cloth that was still viable, and they stitched them all together at whatever angles they had, so it was all free go, and they decided to call it the Patch Theatre. And it was successful, because before then I didn't know what to do with the life. At that time I was working as a railway sleeper layer on the docks of Fremantle, and there was another chap there, and by some means he was selling these prints, this particular print by Noel in the screen print medium, and it was cheap, and so I bought my first artwork from a co-worker on the screen thousands of kilometres away from where they had been done. In this particular one, you get not only the modulation of the body and the equipment, but you get almost the glow that comes with printing from this screen print. And it's still here with me in Wonthaggi. To do, I suppose, in accumulating works in my own interest, that is to say, of my own interest, was to make other people interested as well. Not make by force, but by inducement, you know, and I think that worked quite a lot. Noel Counihan became an artist quite early in life. I put together his print works in correct sequence and annotated. So after this first few, he settled down by being invited to Wonthaggi to depict the miners. Mining of coal was a dirty and dangerous occupation, and much to the surprise and pleasure, in a sense, of the locals, Noel wanted to know what it was like.
It was called the Australia at War exhibition, and it dealt with the work not only of people in the armed forces but of people in essential services in the munitions industry.
Yes, yes.
And as I wasn't in the army, I felt that the miners who were working flat out to produce enough coal for the emergency, and who had been so maligned in the press for their militancy over the years, I thought I'd pay the miners a tribute. And so I asked the state mine management if I could go down the pits at Wonthaggi, the state coal mine, and they were terribly reluctant, because at the time I was the cartoonist for the Communist Party weekly, The Guardian, and they thought I was purely motivated by the desire to make political propaganda. I wasn't at all. So I had interviews with the management, and they said they'd let me down a particular pit, but that was the VIP. pit. I mean, the governor's wife could go down there. It was all vacuumed and, you know, it was all, it had everything but a red carpet. But nevertheless, that particular drive had caused terrible havoc in the ranks of the miners. It was a white elephant. Wasn't really in production. But tunnelling that particular drive filled the lungs of many a miner with dust. I deal with it in the lino cuts, the miners. There's one called the cough. So that was the only area they were going to let me down. And so I went to the miners' union and said, this is the situation. I explained why I wanted to go down. And I said, I want to go anywhere a miner goes, but I'll go with my sketchbook. So they sent a message up to the mine management that if the artist bloke wasn't allowed down, there were going to be pit-top meetings. So I was allowed down. And I stayed in a miner's home, and I went down every day, and I went everywhere that they went. And that really was a revelation, and something I've never forgotten.
It wasn't enough to depict the miners coming out of the mine, so he got acceptance to go down, that he didn't have much space in which to perceive what was going on, as you see here. Very cramped. I don't know how I came across it or any of them. They spoke, yes, they spoke to me more than I could. But certainly he was inspired by things that had that quality about them of humanity and its development, yes. And Noel constantly inspired me in all sorts of ways. You see how cleverly he blends together the carpet, the floor, the seat, the lady and the wall. And yet unless you actually analyse it, it's just a picture of a woman sitting down. But of course the angles speak as much. Yes, well that's typically John Brack. And certainly I've seen that before. Yes, you don't know how much you have benefited from that. The one for which he got the prize, that was a really superb artwork. Belonged to a very wealthy couple in the law who were friends of mine and who inveigled me into giving recitals. I don't mean music or anything like that, on the staircase in their residence. It was quite a cultural centre, and so they bought the big one. There it was, and they hung it on their ground floor on a wall just outside their library. And when the library caught fire, the painting was charred and smoked and whatever, and so despairingly, they made their insurance claim on it. And the insurance company immediately airmailed it to London, where a picture restorer did his worst, and they had lost a painting. There's a beginning way back before Gill comes into the picture. And almost all of them are England adapted. And that is put to an end by S.T. Gill. He puts the actors, the people and their surroundings into the life of the colony. And when I was acting director of the Queensland Art Museum, the whole set was available, and I didn't buy them for myself but for the Queenslanders. Such is duty. These works I owned a long time ago, and when a friend of mine prevailed on me to illuminate various aspects of art. And their whole aim of work like this is to be a support for an exhibition. It's to tell you what is happening, that it's not just a series of pretty pictures, it is perhaps a clash of particular emotions. I think I am more in love with Daumier, but he's not someone you can talk about. He's a visual man. You don't make great history out of a pear, which stands for the chief minister, weighing on the belly of the community, by the way it seems, and it's essentially visual. The words are necessary, but they just make the climax. They were motivated by Daumier. They acknowledged in their title and announcements they were doing the same thing. Well, the London Punch was far more domestic and whatever. This is terrific. So I guess Kollwitz is certainly a heroine of the anti-Nazi lot. Certainly she was. She was a very courageous woman. She was daring, you know. She went on doing this sort of stuff under Hitler's regime. And they are full of meaning, and human meaning at that. I was director of the Queensland Art Gallery, and they wanted some French art. So down I come, and we find works by that artist, plus this one by that artist, dirt cheap. And I thought to myself, the Queensland lot are not going to go for this. So I bought, with their money, I bought something by him that is, you know, filled them up with pride of being represented, blah, blah, blah. And I, with my money, my daughter bought this one. The flowers seem to belong to different species to me because the colour is so varied from one to one to one, and there is a suggestion that some are still coming on. The same person's hands cannot possibly be in that. No, the thumb goes into the wrong place all the time. Someone who has access to the world of beauties and what it contains, passing on that to another person. And one person represents a whole community, and the other also represents a community, and that community to him was the world.
Bob has achieved two wonderful or more than two wonderful things in his life, but the two most wonderful things that he's given to us in the Bass Coast Shire and to Wonthaggi people is that he has come to Wonthaggi to live here amongst us, and with him he has gifted all of his artwork that he's collected. Not really collected, he doesn't like the word collection, but he has acquired lovingly because he wanted that piece. And all these pieces for more than 70 years. So it's really not all of Bob's life, but it's a very, very big portion of Bob's life and a very important portion of his life.
I suppose that my motivation, which would be unconscious, if I might say so, is indeed that I am looking at something that tells me something about the world and its inhabitants. You know, that's not a conscious thought. When I buy one and the other, I don't look for something that they have in common. I look for something they have in common with us.